All right, today we're going to talk about the fundamentals of shooting. If it's been a while that you've gone out to train, or you just got your first rifle and pistol, there's some things that are going to help you when you go out to train, just get better results, faster results. And first, what I want to talk about is grip and training a lot. I train martial arts, and we cross train with all my friends. We all cross train and we go to each other's gyms. And I realized that some of their coaches might say use different verbiage or have a little way of doing this move or that move, but essentially it's the same move, right? You're trying to lock that triangle down so you can get your tap. And as instructors, we might use different verbiage or examples, but we're trying to get you to basically have the same end result, right? So if you've heard it differently, or maybe you need to hear it differently, the way I teach it is how I'm going to go about things, right? So grip, right? We're going to call this the beaver tail. You want to be as high as you can on the beaver tail, your trigger finger resting right here, my middle finger touching the trigger guard. This is the trigger guard, right? I don't want to go too high past the beaver tail, because if I go too high, I get this thing called a slide bite, right? Because the slide's going to go back and it's going to cut you. So as high as I can. Now all this space, I want to occupy all this space, and I'm basically going to have my thumb mirror where my trigger finger is resting. And not just my thumb, but I'm going to bring my palm up to occupy all this space. Notice how I have this thumb raised, right? I then now have my thumb rest. A problem if you have long thumbs is you put your thumb against the frame all the way to here, and so when your gun goes empty, the slide doesn't lock to the rear, right? So to prevent that, don't put your thumb here, don't rest it here. Raise it, occupy all this space, my pointer finger touching the trigger guard, and then I just have it rest. And this right here is the best grip that you can get, right? Because if you do different variations of like what you see in movies, like as much as I like Keanu Reeves and some of his earlier movies, the grip was terrible. But now we all know him as John Wick, right? So you might hold a pistol like this, or maybe here or something. And I'm not saying that you can't shoot and actually hit something or someone, but when you're shooting, 5, 6, 7, 8 shots, the gun is going to be going backing up, and if you have it like this, by the end you're going to have terrible grip and almost no control, right? Now, we talked about where to place our hands, but there's more to that, right? So sometimes what I've noticed is people hold the gun tight with their hands. They hold it tight and then they put it in front of their face. And it's, yes, our hands are wrapped around the gun, but it's not squeeze with your hands and then put the gun in front of your face, right? So it's not squeeze and then put in front of my face. So martial artists, especially grapplers, have turned out to be some of the best students because they understand these things. When I say some things have a feel to it, and these micro movements or adjustments is what's going to make things a lot better for you. So instead of thinking about gripping the pistol like this and then place it in front of your hand, put your hands like this, turn your hands like this, and then punch out, and imagine you have a coin right here in your palms and you're trying to crush that coin. And now, how far do my hands go? There's like you're gonna hear me say happy medium, because there is a happy medium. I have a buddy who he shoots and he's got his hands all the way up to here, and he's a phenomenal shot. And I remember thinking like, man, I want to shoot like him. He shoots really fast and really good. So, and I've tried shooting like this and I can't do it. Like, there's a happy medium. Some guys like to punch all the way out. I punch out not all the way out and just a little bit right here, right? So these happy mediums, you can dry fire a lot of your house, but that you're not going to be able to dry fire. You gotta put some rounds down range. So again, I formed a nice proper grip and I punch out. And now my elbows, instead of just being here, squeezing, try to put your elbows up, right? You're trying to create this vice, or this, like, you want to make it to where, so you shoot, it's only the slide that's going back and forth, not right? But there is, when you do that, when you wrench down like that, I've seen it where sometimes you wrench too much, where your palm starts coming off the frame. And if you find that your palm, the bottom part of your palm is coming off the frame, you're wrenching it down too much, right? So, grip, right? As high as I can on the beaver tail, my trigger finger resting right here. I occupy all this space. I punch out, wrench, right? And my stance. We want a athletic stance. I don't teach people how to be a competitive shooter or anything like that. Competitive shooting, there are some great things from competitive shooting, like the speedy control. Amazing. I love the speedy control of competitive shooters, but some of the things they're more for competition and not for combat, right? We want a athletic stance, which means one leg is forward, one leg is back. I'm a southpaw, which means naturally my right leg goes forward, and my left leg goes back. Most people are orthodox. And what we want is a athletic stance, because we want to be ready. Nobody gets, get ready to be in a fight or be in the Olympics and you're about to race. Nobody goes like this. No UFC fighter goes, okay, I'm gonna fight and here we go, right? No, naturally one leg is back. And when we shoot, I found that some people lean a little bit back. It's not like this, but if there's like a line, imagine it, you don't wanna be behind it. If anything, be forward, a little bit more weight. And boxers understand that when I'm like, hey, put some weight in your front leg. At the end, later on, as you become a little bit more of an advance of a shooter, you're gonna be able to shoot leaning left, right, rolling right, taking a knee, whatever. But we're just talking about where do I start? Now, trigger. Most guns have this, what I like to call slack, or again, as instructors, we're all trying to get you to do the same thing, but we have different verbiage, vocabulary, whatever. But there's this slack that you got to take off. And then once you meet this resistance or wall, you add a little bit more pressure and the shot's going to crack, right? What helps is if we take off the slack and we're at that wall. And then when we shoot, our finger doesn't come completely off the trigger. All it does is instead just give you enough room to reset. And now you're already ready for the next shot, right? And again, we don't want to slap. I was training this certain studio's executive security detail, right? And it's 5 guys on, 12 hours on, 12 hours off. And they had this ranger who had this gigantic hands, big old forearms, and he was just going like this, right? Shooting, finger all the way off, shooting, finger all the way off, and he was hitting everything. He was probably the one of the better shooters of that team. The next day, I was training the other security detail, right? And I noticed one of the guys was doing the exact same thing, but he wasn't getting the exact same results. And what I was telling him is that, some people get away with doing that, but that doesn't mean that is the way for everybody, right? No different than in boxing, right? What do they teach us right away? Hey, hands up, throw that jab straight, bring that hand back. Alex Pereira, the UFC champ, he likes to throw the punches from his hand down here sometimes. And because it works for him, does that mean that we should teach everybody to put their hands down and throw the jab from here? No, that's where he's at. That's what works for him. So where do we start? Everybody usually starts where? From here. And if they change it up a little bit, that's after experience, not from, hey, right away, you should just try this. And so back to that trigger, right? The guy does that. And he's probably because he's got these monster hands, monster forearms, and it's basically he's getting away with it. But so what we want again is take off that slack. You're at that wall, and then smoothly add pressure. Think about pulling back pull back. Don't give it too much finger, because when you give it too much finger, then you kind of start curling. And same can be said if you give it too little finger, and then now you're pushing against the trigger and pulling back. So like this happy medium spot is this knuckle right here, and then beyond, right? Somewhere here is that sweet spot. And I say somewhere there is because, well, our hands are different, right? Everyone's body is different. But again, if you go past this knuckle and you're on your second knuckle, that's probably way too much finger, right? Now, our sights. I have a red dot, right? But if you have like your red dot, RMR, whatever companies out there, there's so many companies out there making these optics for pistols, you have to have your sights. One day I was teaching a class, and this guy had this Gucci gun, and his optic flew off, and I was like, oh man, it looks like you're shooting iron sights from now on. And he's like, oh, I took off my sights. And I'm like, my dude, you gotta keep it on, because if not, then you just have this thing that you're kind of just aiming and hoping, you know, you hit with. So I highly suggest that you have the raised sights, front and rear sights, and you know, your optic as well, because these things, batteries die, glass breaks, and screws break, and your optic just flies off. Now, when we draw, whether you're from the holster or concealed carry, right? So you're from the holster, try not to do this where you draw and then you go here, or you draw and then you go here, and then you're trying to fish for your sights or fish for your red dot, right? Draw, if it's from the holster, your hand meets here or here. I'm not a big believer in things have to be one way. And again, I'm going to go back to the martial arts. When we're all of us, most of us are rangers, and we cross train at each other's gyms, and their coaches would teach it differently, right? But who might have say like, hey, that doesn't work, when obviously it does work, and these dudes are choking people out, right? So I used to be the guy where I drew, and then my hands met here, and then I punched out. And if that works for you, so be it. But now lately, what I do is I draw and I start forming my grip here. So I draw, start forming my grip, punch out, right? Draw, start forming my grip, punch out. Or you can have your hand already here. And this way, you're basically doing the same thing when you conceal carry, because when you conceal carry, I can't really do the form my grip here and then start making it, because I have to lift my sweater, my shirt, whatever, up here to make sure not only enough room to clear the pistol, because in a calm environment, you can 10 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna lift it high enough to pass the pistol, but you have to exaggerate. You have to exaggerate to make sure you clear it, because there's one thing about training right here with no stress and then actual combat. So lift as high as you can to defeat the sweater, punch out. But anyways, now we have front and rear sights, and then we have you know, my RMR here. And when I first started shooting with an RMR, I hated it. I'm like, this thing sucks. For the first 2 hours, I was like, this is terrible. I don't know why people even put optics on their pistol. But then my buddy told me, like, hey, don't punch out and fish for your red dot. Instead, punch out and think about lining up your sights. And if you line up your sights, your red dot will always be there. I mean, I say red dot, but I know some people have green dots or a green circle or whatever. Because in the past, I used to go here, and then I'm like, okay, let me fish for this thing. Boom. And it shows up every time. We talked about stance, grip, trigger, your eyesights. Let's say you don't have an RMR. We can't focus, our vision doesn't allow us to focus on our target and here, right? So it's not that, hey, only focus on your target and then blindly just point and shoot, and it's not a focus on your sights and then everything beyond is super blurry, right? In the beginning, if it helps you to close one eye to line up your sights, do it. But we want to get away from that because, again, it's not for competition or time or anything like that, but for real life, right? Can you imagine you're about to get in a serious situation and you're like, okay, ready? And no, nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to get in a fight with one eye closed. Nobody wants to get in a gunfight with one eye closed. So, but in the beginning, if it helps you to close one eye so you can line up your sights, so be it. And I only do that I only cover my right eye because I'm left eye dominant. So that is pretty much it. I just decided to do a quick little video because so many people, I realize, they have guns and haven't trained, or they're about to buy their first gun and they just honestly don't know where to start. So the way I describe things, you'll probably hear from maybe a different instructor and they'll say different terms or words or whatever examples, but basically we're trying to get you to do the exact same thing. It's control that gun, proper grip, proper trigger control, proper sight picture, and a nice stance so you can be ready to move or whatever. Boom, done.